Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Venturelli. We have a great guest on today, author of the Hormone Handbook, Dr. Greg Brannon. Welcome, sir, to the show. How are you today?
Jason, very good. Thank you very much for the invite.
Excellent, excellent. I love to start off my shows with learning about your past and what got you to the road that you are on today. And if you don't mind, just diving deep into where you got started in the medical profession and what led you to your path right now where you are.
I was an OBGYN for the last 33, 34 years. I loved it. I love dealing with, birth and women are just tougher than men. It's just a great, happy field. It's just an exciting place. I've been honored to deliver about 14,000 babies, but something happened in the practice. I started seeing things we're taught concerning nutrition, diabetes. I did a lot of diabetes in my OB practice, and the answers did not make sense to me. And really didn't make sense to me was the treatment for PMS, postpartum depression, menopausal changes. It didn't make sense that if a woman was losing her particular hormones, estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, why replace that with an antidepressant? It didn't make any sense to me. So I started this journey, this path. It took me about 18 months of studies outside the box. And it made a lot of sense to me clearly that if you replace what you lose, the body knows what to do with it. And an interesting thing, women in their early 20s and 30s, they make 4 to 10 times more, get this, testosterone than they do estrogen. So we have all these preconceived ideas, what causes cancer, what does not cause cancer. So it was this path I went through. Myself, I was diabetic about 13, 14 years ago. And in that time, I was doing triathlons and CrossFit. So it had nothing to do with the workout, it had to do with what I was eating. So I really learned what nutrition was. I learned what good workouts were. And then the whole idea is I want to age gracefully. I don't care about aging. I love aging. It's a fantastic thing. But at the same time, I want to age gracefully. I have 7 children. My youngest is 12. My oldest is 31. I'm 61. I want to be around as long as I possibly can and healthy while I'm around. But I want to be, my big job, I believe in my job as a professional OBGYN and now in optimal bio, is I want to educate. I don't be the kind of doctor in the white coat that tells you what to do. I want to walk that journey with that person. I want to hear their story. What symptoms and signs are telling us something. And it gets back to the biochemistry and how the body's supposed to work. I don't want to hear your ranges are normal, you're okay. I want to hear optimal. And the optimal's from you telling me, wow, Greg, I'm back doing what I want to do. And that's how the process starts. So the Hormone Handbook goes through the science. I love your idea that is the podcast on the new theory podcast. The new theory is we're going back to what we used to be, before xenoestrogen and all these plastics destroyed our body and the biochemistry and put the body back to the optimal biochemistry. So we could survive. No, we could thrive.
Right. So what were the biggest signs that you saw in women? Like that it was just, was it like a postpartum way that that women went through, like that you just I don't even know how to explain it medically, but like what did you see? What was the first steps that you saw? Like, wow, something's really changing and we're not doing anything about it and we're not dealing with it as a society besides prescribing them the medications that doctors do.
Yeah, exactly. And every medication either blocks a receptor or blocks an enzyme. So therefore, what sequelae are coming down the side path? So back to what you're telling me. When I have these beautiful, young, healthy, mid-20-year-olds to early 40-year-olds complain they're always tired, it can't be in their head. It's not because they just had 3 kids. That's not the answer. Why are they tired? And that got me looking at our energy sources. Because the number 1 and number 2 reasons why I see people in my practice today at Optimal Bio, 18 years of age to 90, male or female, I'm tired of being tired and brain fog. That was it. Those are the 2 major things. Not
brain
libido.
fog. Yeah. I can't believe you said it. My wife, brain fog was her number 1 issue. Right. And as we speak today, she's pregnant right now as you speak. But we had 2 children before, 5 and 3 now, and brain fog is her number 1, and fatigue.
Right.
And that hormone imbalance is more so because of pregnancy, obviously, right? Or I don't know.
No. Actually, a lot of women feel better when they're pregnant because their levels are at their highest. All right. Mm-hmm. So let me start with this. Let me start with this thing. My wife, we have 7 children, and she's tired because she has 7 children. No, that wasn't the thing. But let's go back to how our body works. I'm going to correlate to a car. Well, I call everybody a Ferrari or Bugatti. You're the best of the best.
Yeah.
Can you drive the Ferrari or the Bugatti without gasoline? No.
No.
And then you need a carburetor to bring the oxygen into the carb so the fuel can combust. That's the thyroid. The thyroid is the oxygen container, and the gasoline is your sex hormones, your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And it's simplistic, but that's how it works. So we would not say, hey, your Ferrari can't work. Let's just wash the outside. Let's wax it. Are you Armor All in the tires? Is there air in your tires? All that is important, but it's not to drive the car. Now, what we want to do is drive the cars. What level of gasoline do you want? What level do you want? 93? You want a 85? No, you want the best you can get. And that's what's important. So let's look over what numbers are. The testosterone makes the brain make more neuroplasticity. It makes the nerves talk to each other. Testosterone has over 400 functions in our bodies. Estrogen has over 350 functions in our bodies. So when the fuel is low, you're going to see signs and symptoms of those being depleted. And the biggest one, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, not to cut you off. But women depend more on the estrogen hormone.
No. Studies have shown in menopausal women giving testosterone alone actually alleviates 77% of their menopausal symptoms. They work in coherence. So let's go over how the body works. There's a part in the brain called the hypothalamus. It's the control center. Has 6 releasing hormones that release 6 hormones in the anti-pituitary to run the body. I'm gonna focus on 3 of them: growth hormone, thyroid, and the sex hormones. So FSH in men and women, in men it makes sperm, in women makes egg, and the egg makes estrogen. The LH in women makes progesterone, in men it makes testosterone. But in both men and women, the estrogen and or the testosterone convert to each other. So estrogen and testosterone convert in each other. So that's how you and I get estrogen, is our testosterone converts to that. And women get testosterone because their estrogen converts to testosterone. So all 3 go do their function. But estrogen is what turns it off. So when everything's riding good, estrogen goes back and goes, okay, turn off, we're running good. But what happens if we get fake estrogens in our diet somewhere else? They're called xenoestrogens. They act as neuroendocrine disruptors. So our body will make less of what it needs to make. That's important. But we're getting fake estrogens, Roundup, atrazine, pesticides, PVC piping, red dye 3, red dye 40, BPA plastics, plasticides, about 300 we know about. An average American eats about a credit card worth of plastic a month. All right. So this is important because the last 50 years, the range of normal levels have dropped. It's not an evolutionary adaptation that makes us better. It is a complication for the environment destroying this beautiful body we've been given. So that's why numbers are lower. In my book, I put males about 30 years ago, the range of testosterone was 800 to 1200. I found papers.
Well, real quick, let's go with age here. That's not true for somebody.
No, that's age independent. A paper out of Harvard last year shows we're losing men are losing not because they're older, because the environment's just beating up on it longer. So a man should be able to produce optimal testosterone regardless of age.
So you're saying that I'm 39 now. You're saying when I would at 20, I should still right now. If I was in caveman days, like if I was in our ancestors 4,000 years ago,
no, like 60 years ago, 50 years ago,
I should have the same testosterone level.
Yes,
and I know for a fact because I got my testosterone tested 5 years ago, and I was if I should be at 800 or 1,000, I was at 400 something.
Yeah, let's go over this. This is important, Jason. This whole idea, if we lose thyroid, do we give you age-appropriate thyroid? No, we give you optimal thyroid, regardless of your age, because there's side effects of being suboptimal. If we lose insulin, do we give you insulin appropriate based upon your age? No, we give you age appropriate to keep the system running functionally. But when you lose gonads, estrogen, testicles, or ovaries, we say, no, that's part of aging. So do we age and lose hormones, or do we lose hormones because we age? But the bottom line is this, is the system will actually suffer at lower values. And that's what's important to understand. LabCorp's value, June 30th of 2016, was 350 to 1197. On July 1st, they changed it to 264 to 916.
They dropped it.
because they're testing sicker population base. So if everybody is
They
lower,
bring the bar down,
they bring the bar down. So you look back from the testosterone was first isolated in human beings in 1931. The first study ever done was on women. 1935 with hysterectomies were given testosterone pellets. That's what we give. The first study in men was 1937. So it's been studied that the shots did not start until the early 40s. Oral dose was in 47 which they knew caused blood clots and some cancer. So pellets are the safest, most bioidentical. I know we're jumping, but it's about over the range. So I don't want to hear what the range is today with 10,000 sick people. I want to know what it was optimally. So let's go back a few generations when we had less involvement of the environment destroying our biochemistry. And Traviston did that paper at Harvard. He looked at 5 decades. Every 10 years, we're losing a significant amount. It's roughly 2% per year. So if you look back at this data talk, and we had this conversation for men now for testosterone, say in the 50s, the range would be roughly 800 to around 1400. That's what you'd be. Not today. Duke University says 170 to 700. No, we're checking a sick population base. As an OBGYN, where I train, I was very fortunate. The major textbooks in my field were written by professors. But back then, a woman was considered high if they're around 200. Today, they consider a woman high if she's 41. So we're getting hammered because we have this environment. We're checking these population bases. And when you look at these symptoms, when you replace these levels to those optimal levels, tiredness goes away, brain fog goes away, belly fat goes away, building muscle comes. Women go on estrogen and testosterone pellets in menopause, gain 8.3% of bone mass per year. It makes complete sense because osteoblasts need testosterone to grow. So give it what it needs. That's what this whole thing's about. Is I don't want to hear today's values.
Well, okay, so all that said, how does a doctor, a medical professional, and I'm telling you, you walk into your regular physician and you say, "Doc, I'm tired. Doc, I'm not sleeping well. I'm achy, whatever it may be." They won't bring up testosterone.
No.
You have to say to your doctor, "Hey, Doc, I want to get my testosterone checked out." Oh, and then they'll do it. You get the blood work. Oh, you're normal. You're at 300. And I said, "Doc, if I was at 1,000 at 21 and I'm 300 now, why? How is that normal?"
It isn't.
And it isn't. But why is the medical profession they're not recognizing this? This is a huge problem.
Well, there's about 10,000 alternative providers. Again, I'm allopathic trained. I got I'm a board certified OBGYN, all those things. But functional integrative medicine does not look at we look at the whole person as well. So I've been fortunate. I'm trained allopathic and functional. So I'm not anti-medicine. Again, if you lose testosterone, why would you replace it with Zoloft? If you lose insulin, you replace it with insulin, right?
Right.
So I'm trying to think biochemistry as well. So the answer is we're trained because you know why? They look at the lab core range and they'll say, oh, 264 to 916, you're 400, you're normal. But I feel like crap. Well, it's not testosterone. Baloney. A buddy of mine went to his doctor, a world famous university around here, and said, "Doc, what if I walked in and," because he asked, what level should I go to? He goes, "Well, don't go over 700. What if I walked in spontaneously and I was 1,200? What would you do? What would you do to lower my risk factors by lowering my testosterone?" He goes, "Nothing, because there's no risk factors being higher. There's none. But you've got to correlate. There are some risk factors with synthetic routes versus bioidentical routes. So it's important to the structure. Bioidentical means that the molecule we're using is atom for atom, structure for structure, identical to what our body makes. So let's go over some women first. I'm going to go over
and that's real quick, a little plug on your book. That's what your book talks about, bioidentical.
Yeah, my Mayo Clinic states that bioidentical hormone is molecule for molecule. Body recognizes as same, okay? And that's important. When it's recognized as same, your body knows how to utilize it correctly with the right strength it's supposed to be and knows how to metabolize it, therefore knows how to eliminate it. When you give it something that's synthetic or a different structure, first off is how potent is it? Is it more potent? Is it less potent? And then the complication is how do you metabolize it and eliminate it? Then you got these waste products that may be causing free radicals to your body that cause other undue consequences. That's why replace exactly what your body lost for the optimal level. And what's an optimal level? I'll be a little nerdy on this, but the androgen receptor in our body We know DNA has this code ATCG, and those alphabet makes codes to make proteins. When your messenger RNA reads the DNA making the androgen receptor, it ends with a CAG at the end of like a period, and it ends with 5 of them. If it ends with 5 of them, the receptor is much more responsive and sensitive. If it has more than 5, closer to 11, it's less. That's why some people feel better at 9:52 versus say 12:35. All right.
Okay.
So that's how specific you can get on here. But what I use as success, I use the patient. It's their journey. How do they feel when the levels are optimal? And we have a 98% retention rate. So when you get these women and men in these levels, they tell us, hey, doc, I got it. 85% of our patients on antidepressants are off in 4 months.
I want to take one step back here because so if you're taking testosterone, that is synthetic testosterone, tell me the difference. Okay. No, you already told me the difference. How do I Bioidentical, how am I increasing my testosterone level? Okay. Or as opposed to, and I think I'm following you correctly, as opposed to going and getting a shot once a week, which is synthetic, correct?
It is. Now, let's
go. So explain those routes.
Okay. Picture the molecule is like my fist up. Okay, that's testosterone, we'll say. To make the shot, you got to bind it to a molecule called an ester. The ester is synthetic, not the testosterone, even in the shots. The shots aren't bad. I consider them driving a Camry. Drive a Camry or drive a Ferrari. Which one do you want? Has to do with the pharmacokinetics, because when you have to dissolve the ester off,
this is injectable.
It's injectable. When you have to dissolve it off, the shots go like this in your bloodstream. Okay, and the so-called roid rage is not when it's high; it's when it's dropping. Okay, so but the benefit is if you have a consistent level, and the pharmacokinetics is called first order pharmacokinetics with the pellet, because the shape of the pellet dictates how it dissolves. So it dissolves at a steady state, so that your body gets the benefit at a steady state. Literature has shown a steady state in male above 700 has some cardiovascular protection. Above 900 has shown dementia and Alzheimer protection.
So the alternative to those synthetic shots is these pellets that we're discussing.
Yeah, you could do bioidentical in cream form. The problem with cream is
you put it underneath your armpit.
No, but androgel is not bioidentical. Okay, that's the pharmaceutical one that's recommended by the FDA. Okay. A compound pharmacist making a natural one like mine, but in a cream form, can absorb it. The skin's not a great absorbent over time, and you can't get high enough and consistent enough. But it's the number 2. So the order I think of importance would be number 1 pellet, number 2 would be the bioidentical cream, number 3 would be the injections, even though synthetic, because there's still benefit for them. But the androgel cream, which is the pharmacy one, and the shots do have a slight increase in blood clots because of a product called Thrombox Na2. Very, very small. But the bioidentical does not have any of those risk factors.
Okay. So pellets on top, then we'll go to cream, and then the shots and the gel tied.
But again, the thing is, how do you know if it works? What level do I get to? And this is what's important again. I don't want today's standards. That's why I always go back to what was optimal 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Gotcha. And you'll find that number. Now for women, let's go over women real fast. Women have 3 hormones. They have estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. When they're younger, having their cycles.
Well, the third one, woman,
progesterone.
Yeah,
that in Latin, that means pro-life. It keeps the baby inside the womb. Okay. Plus, it protects the brain, the heart. I'll go over all that in detail too. The difference between synthetic and bioidentical. So, when your woman is young, on their cycles, their estrogen is very low, and their progesterone is very low. In the middle of their cycle, their estrogen peaks around 200 to 400. Then they make progesterone. So that's why they have that cycle. Okay. But their testosterone stays consistently high. It's supposed to. Okay, that doesn't vary much. The problem is when you have an estrogen dominance, or not making enough, you're making enough estrogen, but not high enough to ovulate. Therefore, you make more estrogen than you do progesterone. Your cycles become irregular, become moody, sometimes acne. So you can balance that out with natural progesterone. But the key thing for motivation and drive and libido and energy is the testosterone molecule itself. So that's why we keep that in the optimal range. Now, menopause by strict definition is 1 year of no periods. But the laboratories, if you follow them, can start 10 years earlier, having mood swings, changes, those kind of things occurring. So you could actually give hormones and keep those levels optimal while they transition into menopause and get the benefits. When menopause hits, a woman will lose 5% of her bone mass every year. By the age of 70, 70% of women have broken vertebrae. Get this one. 50,000 women a year die of osteoporosis. Not by they fall down, not because they fall down. Their hip snaps, then they fall down. If they go on pellets, they gain 8.3% per year. They never have osteoporosis, ever. Now,
what age? You said 10 years prior. Okay. Yep. A woman in her 35 years old should start considering this path of
25% of my patients are in the age of 30, because wicked PMS is also.
I'm sorry. Did you say under or
under 30?
Under.
I have a lot of those because the PMS, postpartum depression, that's also has to do with hormonal changes. The NIH in 2013 did one of the largest studies looking at what's the best thing for anxiety and depression. Their conclusion was testosterone in both men and women. That's why when you look at the correlation of the lower testosterone having more of these mood swings and changes. Again, there's 400 functions testosterone does. So we can sit here and label all these symptoms, and you go, Greg, it can't fix all of those. I know it doesn't. But when you have your hormones optimal, then we can really, really evaluate you. And you could tell me what's still there, what's not still there.
And you could zero in.
And that's where thyroid comes together, because in the postpartum state, that's where thyroiditis occurs. And thyroid works very close. T3 works very close with testosterone. Also, vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's an anabolic serosteroid, which correlates completely with your testosterone levels. So we monitor all of those.
My wife is not inactive, hyperthyroid. She's glucose sensitive. Okay. She can't have any glucose.
Okay.
And there's her thyroid doesn't act properly. Right. It doesn't regulate.
Hyper or hypo?
I don't know.
Here's a lot of reasons for that. To make the thyroid gland work properly, we need iodine. We took iodine out of our food in 1980. Japan still has this. They still have 15 milligrams a day. We do 50 micrograms a day. That 80% of Americans are suboptimal by the old standards. Again, okay. We need selenium. We need zinc. We need magnesium. This used to be all in our topsoil, but our food's been destroyed by the processing of our soils. So that's why we look at every aspect of this. And again, we get these numbers in optimal ranges. How do I know it works? Hey, I'm not tired anymore, doc. That's what this is. Hey, my belly fat's gone. You know what? I'm not taking naps in the afternoon when I come home. I want to be with my husband or my wife. I want to hang out. I want to go whatever. You see those things.
So for those listening right now, if you're a woman and you start and you feel you're having symptoms late 20s, early 30s, let's tackle that now. Let's do the blocking and tackling now.
Yes.
Because 20 years,
yes,
it's not getting better.
Not getting better.
And the path you're taking now, whatever it is, diet-wise, exercise-wise, that alone, I mean, just our normal diet here in America is not good.
Well, what's the acronym for it? Standard American Diet, SAD, SAD. The food pyramid has killed us. That was pushed through in 1977, and that killed us. You can look back at that line. These metabolic syndromes, endocrine disruptions, all have to do with too much sugar. Men, what age? I mean, do women go through this, or would you find it's the same age, men and women? Again, I have patients from 18 to 93. All right. I'm going to blow your mind on this one. We have some active young military guys that look like Hercules with every symptom you're talking about, with their levels under 200. That's crazy. The thing about this, though, Jason, is this. When I first heard about this, I'll be as clear as I can. In my book, my introduction, I thought this was garbage. I put my arrogance led to my ignorance. I'm a professor of this. I said, teach this. There's no way I would not know about this. It took me 18 months of study to convince myself. And I thought, what an idiot. I started at 51 and I'm 61. Now at 61, I'm 8% body fat. I'm stronger than I've ever been.
Energy, diet.
I just love it. But I thought I was in great shape at 50. The difference between 50 and 60, I'm in better shape now than I was at 30. But again, you got to take it. If you think a pellet's going to change you, no. Here's the 5 things you need to do, all of us, to age gracefully. Number 1, sleep. Okay. Number 2, eat.
Well, hold on. Let's not put a blanket. I'm going to go over each one of these.
No. Hold on. I'm saying they tie together. Okay. Third is exercise. 4th is decrease stress. And fifth, this is the one that's key. It anchors all four of the one above it. Replace what you've lost. Greg, I can't sleep. You know why you can't sleep? Your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone's off. I can't exercise. You know, I have no motivation. Your testosterone's low. I don't see. That's why it's important to know the fifth one. That's the anchor. That's the glue that ties all the other four together, right? Because it's a vicious catch-22. You can't sleep without your biochemistry being optimal.
Okay, let's go over these real quick. So sleep, optimal sleep. Listen, I'm not an 8-hour guy.
No,
I don't sleep 8 hours.
It's 5 REM cycles. And how do you know if you sleep well? You wake up without an alarm, refreshed. That's it. Okay. And testosterone keeps you in 5 REM cycles. You may be 7 hours, you may be 8 hours, but there's a pattern for us. Number 2, what do you eat? How do we eat? It's important to understand this low fat, high carb diet the last 40 years has killed Americans. Let's get back to the way we used to eat. We used to eat intermittent fasting. We ate breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 5, and we were done. What'd you eat? Eggs, bacon, ribeye steak, green salad, some vegetables. That's what it is. So that's what you need to do. The carbohydrates are so processed that killed us. Fructose is now the number one cause of liver failure.
It's in everything.
It's a number one cause of liver failure and liver transplant.
Oh, and again, people get on these talk shows and they talk about, listen, majority of people watching these shows or watching this show or watching the news, they don't have, I don't want to say the time, but they don't have a cook out there. They don't have their free range cattle outside. They don't have access to this. Okay. How can an everyday 9 to 5 person with 3-4 kids avoid that stuff?
Again, if you can't get grass fed, I understand that, but you know what? Any protein source animal protein source is better than none. So get the best you can, but avoid things in the box. Don't buy a can of string beans. Buy string beans. You know what I mean? I don't cook. My wife would be laughing, but she's the greatest cook in the world. But again, it is an egg. You can't go wrong with an egg. And the cholesterol is the yolk is the most important. And this whole cholesterol hypothesis is a scam. So I could do a whole.
And you're saying keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Right. But then eat healthy and then exercise. It's not doing CrossFit. It's not, you could do all those things, but it's basically 45 minutes every other day.
Move.
Walk and lift something heavy. Now that heavy might be you doing push-ups, doing air squats. And as you move on, a light kettlebell. You can find a bunch of these exercises online, functional body movements. And then, but the things you got to do as we age is a push-up or bench press, deadlift or squat, that maneuver. Those are the 2 important things. Number 4 cause of death over the age of 60 is falling down.
Okay.
So therefore, start when you're 39. So you can't build it at 70. You start now. And we lose about 1% of our strength if we work out 3 days a week if you don't have the right testosterone levels. That's why it's not age appropriate. Sarcopenia is weak muscles forming. We could build that upon that as we age. Again, but you can't build it without the fuel. That's why I'm so big on the 2 major fuel sources, our sex hormones and our thyroid. When those are optimal, then eating, sleeping, working out is more efficient and enjoyable.
Right. And so sleep, eat. And when we say eat, those 3-course meals and intermittent fasting, you're done at 5-6 o'clock eating. Right. Yeah. Wait till your next meal, breakfast.
Yep. I like the word time restricted feeding in the sense that's what Jason Fung talks about it in his book, Obesity Code and Diabetes Code. It's, I eat 4 hours a day and I eat within this 4-hour window and I eat anything I want. I just avoid breads and things like that, but you just eat. And that gives you flexibility. You want to become, Mark Sisson talks about it in Primal Blueprint and in 2 Meals a Day. You want to be adaptable. You want to be sugar adapted and fat adapted, but you want your body to be able to use fat for energy more than sugar, because sugar is easy to use when it's there, but if it's not there, your body will learn to burn fat.
And let's just cover this real quick. Sugar is the worst. That's the worst for you. Tell people this, okay? Your body processes, if you have sugar in an apple, okay, or you have sugar in a Snickers bar. Now, obviously, the apple's healthier because it has vitamins, right?
Well, it's also fighting to get the sugar out. You absorb a lot less of that fructose because you have to chew through the fiber to get there. Yes, sir.
So, but does your body process the sugar that it gets from the apple or the Snickers, does it gets into your body? Does it process it the same?
Differently.
Yeah,
Because processed sugars that are there easily don't have to be broken down. When they're
broken
there,
down. Gotcha.
the big one is drinking fructose is the worst. Fructose should never see your colon. And the papers now in animal and human studies shown that the fructose actually increases colon cancer because a colon should never see fructose. But what sugar does is this. We only get sick 3 ways: arthritis, appendicitis, Alzheimer's, atherosclerosis, don't care what it is. Number 1 is vascular injury, when the endothelial lining of an artery or the endothelial line of the gut or the brain gets injured. That leads to an immune response, which then leads to inflammation. Immune response and inflammation are very, very life-saving for short periods of time. It's when they're chronic. They lead to free radicals. Electrons are in pairs. When one is gone, then one is by itself. That destroys proteins. And that's what you want to eliminate. So everything we try to do is eliminate those 3 damages. Make your endothelial line as strong as possible. That's vitamin D. That's eating a high-fat diet, omega-3s. That's having testosterone, estrogen. Try to decrease immune reaction. That's CoQ10. That's vitamin D or hormones again. It all ties together. That's what makes it so beautifully complex yet simple. Just give the body the fuel it needs at the levels it needs and let it do its job.
Most of your diet consists of what? Meats? Is it a balanced diet? Is it vegetables all day long? Meaning, every meal is a vegetable?
No. I'm not a big vegetable guy in the sense of as the main course, but I love a Mediterranean diet-ish. So
I was just talking about that today.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Mediterranean diet is the simplest, because I hate the word diet. I want a way of living.
Okay, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I take that back as well. I hate that. Diet's a fad, right? You're doing it for exactly. I got you.
Just eat your fat, your protein, some beautiful vegetables that you love, and that's basically it. But egg yolks and whole grass-fed cheese if you can. That you want as less processed out of a box, out of it as possible, right? That's what you want to do.
What about oats?
Good question. Oatmeal, processed oatmeal. There's more sugar in a bowl of oatmeal than 2 root beer floats. Let that sink in. I was diabetic. I told you I had oatmeal every single day for 17 years. I stopped oatmeal. 6 weeks later, I lost 32 pounds. Yeah.
What is it a misconception that carbs, you need some carbs to have the energy?
Let's do this real quick. If you don't eat fat, you'll die in a few months. If you don't eat protein, you'll die in a few months. If you don't eat a carbohydrate, there's not one known disease. Okay, now your body will make carbohydrates. We need them, but again, your body will make them. But they're so easy to get. That's the thing.
Right. If you've been eating carbs, because I found this in myself, in my younger years, I was big into bodybuilding. When I dropped carbs, I felt fatigue and I felt flat. I didn't feel as strong as the gym. Was it just because my body always got it and was used to it, and I needed to get past that feeling?
Yes, 100%. We store about 36 to 72 hours worth of sugar in our body. Okay, that's glycogen in our muscle and liver. You got to burn that out. Then your body takes about 3 weeks to do. Mark Sisson writes in his book, great on that stuff. And then your body learns about 3 weeks later, boy, I may not get sugar again. Let me start burning fat for energy. Mm-hmm. 1 molecule of glucose gives us 2 ATPs, which is the energy source. 1 molecule of an average length fatty acid gives us 40. What's better for your body? It's burning the fat. But you want to be adaptable. You want to eat fat. You want to use fat for energy when it's there. You want to use carbohydrates when it's there. But you just don't want your body to be lazy in the sense of using carbohydrates. But this is important to understand. It's not about weight here, Jason. It's about health. And Jason goes over this great in his book, Obesity Code. Intermittent fasting is not a weight loss thing. It's a healthy thing. Here's what happens. When we have a sugar floating around, our body gets very lazy. And if there's waste products, we'll keep them in the cell. And that's one of the theories of aging. 12 hours of no eating, your cell goes, oh my gosh, I need energy. Let's eat that garbage over there. Let's start eating that garbage as energy. So it cleans it up. The mitochondria, which turns oxygen to energy, you have some mitochondria that are dysfunctional. And they're just hanging around. But you know what? Let's eat them because they're not doing work. So after 12 to 14 hours of no eating every day, your body starts cleaning out that garbage. So now what's left behind is stronger and more efficient. The byproduct is you lose weight, but you're strong, your brain. Intermittent fasting has been shown to be phenomenal on.
And the intermittent fasting or any fasting, and again, please correct me right away if I'm wrong, but fat around vital organs.
That's the worst fat. That's
right. The worst fat. And that builds up, but it goes away faster if you do the intermittent fasting.
100%. 100%. Visceral fat is the number one risk. The fat within skin is more genetic, but you can't lose that. It's just, I don't want to make it sound so simple, but yet be complicated and vice versa. But it is this way. When you eat a food, how does that nutrient get to the cell? It's complex, but it's so complex, I don't want to think about it. Just give it the right food. You know what I mean? Testosterone has, again, 400 functions. What are all they? I could talk to the benefits, how it helps insulin resistance. It helps leptin resistance. It builds muscle. It helps neurotransmitters. I got all that. Just give it the number it needs. And that's why this ratio, the range bothers the crud out of me. Because if my great grandparents ran around, I'm not talking caveman age, I'm talking, 40s and 50s, our grandparents, if they're running around their peak and they were 1,000 to 1,300, why don't you and I want to be there? Here's the question. What's the downside? I'm going to give you a huge study. This is at the VA. It was men over the age of 50, 70,000 men in this study. I want to do 2 studies. And it showed men who were over 540 versus men under 350. The men in the 350 group had an 88% higher chance of dying of a heart attack in 4.5 years. Just that alone. So if your doctor says you're fine under 600, where's that paper? Show me that study. Now, another one. Here's the fallacy. Well, we know testosterone therapy causes prostate cancer to grow. Ready? Here's the paper. It was in 1941 by Huggins and Hodges at University of Chicago. Huggins, world famous, won the Nobel Prize in 1963. How many men were in this world famous study said testosterone therapy makes prostate cancer grow? You ready? One. And he was already castrated because back in those days, they castrated him. So they know that the prostate gland itself gets saturated when the level's at 90. So anything over 90 cannot make it grow. Dr. Morgenthau at Harvard did a study, only 13 people, but there are 13 men he biopsied who had prostate cancer. He gave them pellets and biopsied them 2.5 years later. Of those 13 men, 56% had no prostate cancer and 40% had no change. He also has multiple papers showing men with prostate cancer treated with pellets versus those not treated. Those not treated died sooner of heart attack and stroke because they had no testosterone.
Hormone levels are directly connected to cancer.
That's 100% of that study. Yes, sir. Okay. That's just so important. Now I'm going to go over this woman study. I know we're hitting a lot of things, but we're here. Hormones cause breast cancer. Let's go with these women. So every paper before 2002 said hormones, synthetic or not, did not increase breast cancer. They, in fact, increased cardiovascular protection and dementia protection. Then the world famous paper came out in 2002 called the WHI study. Now, this is important to understand this paper. It was 10,000 healthy women in the study. 5,000 dropped out. So that's only 5,000 women. And the word Dr. Desai, a world famous oncologist, destroyed this paper. But he said this. What was the average woman in the study? Average woman was 63 and a half. So they missed 13 years of protection if there was protection, because menopause is usually 51. Half had high blood pressure, half smoked, half were overweight, a third had a heart attack already. All right? Let that sink in. And that's your healthy population base. They gave them Premarin, which is female horse urine, and Provera. That arm increased breast cancer 24%. The next day, the news said hormones cause cancer. It wasn't hormones. It was Premarin and Provera, which is synthetic progestin, not progesterone. But even if you remove the progesterone, the Provera part of it, the people on Premarin alone did not have increased breast cancer. It was just the Provera arm. All right? Now, the reason why is because Provera blocks the progesterone receptor and causes complications within the breast tissue. Dr. Fiernero in France, he did a study with 2 arms, 134,000 women. He gave them estrogen pellet and natural progesterone, estrogen pellet, and Provera. The estrogen arm with the natural progesterone decreased breast cancer 10%. The Provera arm increased it 69%.
Increased?
69%. It's the Provera because that blocks the receptors to the brain and the heart and the breast. So that's why it's important to look at the actual structure. That's why So I thought, can we replace a hormone that gets the benefits without the risk factors? And that's the bioidentical. Now, Hopkins did a paper and looked back at that WHI study, and they estimated 19,000 women a year died that should not have died if they stayed on the Prem Pro because of heart protection and brain protection. So that's not, we're out here now. That's a 20-year-old study, but nobody hears about this stuff. There's a great book called Estrogen Matters that destroys this.
Estrogen Matters?
Yes, sir.
Why there are all these doctors get together all the time, right? In these, what do you call them? These conferences, Miami, Vegas, all over the country, LA, New York. Are there conferences on this topic?
Oh, yeah.
And if I mean, again, doctors, conferences, 100 doctors show up. If there is it a popular conference, or are doctors just shutting this and just, hey, a couple guys are showing up?
It depends. There's over 10,000 providers for pellets.
It's a big number.
A big number. Okay.
It's a big number.
The FDA did a 2 years, a year and a half ago, released a paper, and their conclusion on pellets was, here's their conclusion. No joke. There's enough synthetic product out there. And if you have this, there's too much confusion for the patient to make a decision. That was their conclusion. Yeah. I'm right now in the process of writing I have my Hormone Handbook's a nice summary book, but I'm working right now with I have about 14,000 articles. I'm writing a book that's going to be pure science. Lay people can read it, but it's going to be for the doctors to say all the stuff we're talking about with all the papers documenting it and why the pellet is the best route. I hope we're done by February or March. So I'm just trying to, I'm not doing this for doctors. I'm not doing this to.
I'm sorry. Did you mention the working title, or you don't have?
No, we don't have a title yet.
Gotcha.
But what I'm doing this for is back to we talked a half hour ago. I consider my job an educator. Your podcast is an educator. Mm-hmm. That's what this is. Yeah. I want you and me. I believe the king and queen is in the mirror, and I want to do everything. I'm a huge liberty freak. I don't believe you're free if you ask for permission. And I want people to be completely, everything we get at their disposal to go down the path they want to go. And they may go, hey, Jason, I want to follow you on your podcast. I want to walk my journey with you. Hey, Greg, I want to walk my journey with you, but I want them to lead us. Hey, Greg, what about this? What about that? Greg, I read this paper. What about this? I was on Google here. I want them to bring papers, because when people leave our office, they go, well, besides our book, I send them article upon article upon article. Go read, go look, go research, because This is your journey. And that's what we want. In fact, I charge one consult fee forever, because I just want to make sure you may need one visit with me. You may need 30 visits with me. Don't care. I want this to be here for the next 20 years. We're doing this together. So my goal is to educate. And that's why these numbers are so important, because it doesn't make sense to me. You lose X and I replace it with a synthetic Y that does nothing the same. I don't believe it's in our head. It's because our body's screaming out signs and symptoms to say, help, replace me with what I've lost. And now we have about 10,000 patients in the last 4 years. We see the numbers. We see it coming in. And that's why I don't put an age limit on this or a gender in this. It's male.
I'm sorry, direct patients? You said 9,000 to 10,000 direct patients?
Yeah, I think that's about our number.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's pretty cool about this is that, again, after our first month of treatment with anybody, I asked them to grade me 0 to 10. Grade me. Where are we at? They want to know. And then that will dictate what we got to look for. Because we got to find, because you know what? It may be something else. Leaky gut's huge. It may be, and I refer people out to other functional medicine doctors or even mainstream doctors. I want to be a helper to go in this path. We may need a colonoscopy. We may need something else, but we're not going to say, here's a pill, see you later. It just ain't going to happen.
Which everybody gets now. Everybody gets.
I don't blame these doctors, because they're so overwhelmed. They don't have time to sit and talk. I got it. That's why I wrote a paper in 2010 called Healthcare in America, walking about how America should be a private sector and allow the individual to control where they go. And just to get a little nerdy, but I'm a constitutional guy. And in 2014, I lost the race for United States Senate, but for 3 points in North Carolina. So I was endorsed by Rand Paul. I'm a big liberty conscious guy. And in Article 3, Section 8 of the Constitution states the Commerce Clause is to make things regular. So my answer with this was, if every insurance company could compete in every single state, what would happen? Prices go down, quality goes up. That's a simple thing that allows them to keep and have insurance not pay for oil changes in gasoline, have them pay for catastrophic. What would happen? Then prices go down, quality goes up. So in the same thing I want to do here is eliminate the middleman and have, again, the king and queen dictate what they need.
Yeah, so true. So true. So let's dive into, I want to talk, you haven't talked about your, I mean, basically this is what your book is about.
Yes,
but yeah, right. Let's walk through what a patient needs to do. Step one, we went through the steps: sleep, eat, exercise.
How they get to us, Jason? Is this interesting?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what are you going to ask of them? It's going to be a blood test. It's going to be.
First thing is this: is people are searching us out, right? We're not marketing. We're just out there, right? We're out there, and they're looking for tiredness, brain fog, they're low T, whatever in their mind they think this is, right? So they're searching, and I hope we're out there on Instagram, we're out there online, Facebook, we're out there with educational materials, and our books on Amazon. You can buy our book. We whatever. So here's about a patient calls us. First thing we do is we send them a free PDF version of our book. Period. Educate them. Let's get them out there. They come in. We hear their story. We talk.
Nowadays, they have to, after 2020, everybody can do virtual visits, mail-in.
I've been doing virtual visits for about 7 years already, just because.
So somebody out of state, not in North Carolina, can be a patient of yours.
We have about 300 or 400 outside the state, yes, for years, because
they hear about clear to everybody watching that they can.
Yeah, they hear us. Now, the problem is this. I can't place them unless they come to see me. We got about a couple hundred that fly into us, but that's second. So patient talks to us. We hear their story online or face-to-face. In 2020, we kept on seeing face-to-face. We didn't stop that. I love that. And then we were listening to their story. That will dictate. I draw everybody a picture of the brain and the 6 systems of how it works. I have a big whiteboard in my office, and I draw, this is how our body works. And then if they're interested, I go read the book, come back more. If we get other labs drawn, then they come back with their labs, and I draw their labs into my brain picture of where it all works. And then the placement is, it's a small pellet that goes outside your buttocks, takes about 15 seconds to place under the skin, and it starts dissolving in the fat because the fat's very vascular. So it's about a 1 millimeter incision in women, about a 3 millimeter in men. And the dose is based upon, it's an algorithm based upon your size, your level, your symptoms. And I get a dose specifically individualized for that person. And then we check the labs again in a month, and they tell us.
And how long? Now that's just one pellet.
No. It's not a one pellet. It's one dosage. Men get about 8 to 12 pellets. Women get about 1 to 3, based upon their levels, where they're at, and their age, and where they're at.
And that lasts
4 to 6 months for men, 3 to 5 months for women.
Okay.
And we find this beautiful graph.
And now you're checking their levels in 3 months. You're checking.
I checked the level in 1 month. The literature says about 25% women need a booster. I try not to. I want to save the booster. I want to save money and save trauma to the area. So we have about a 1% booster rate, but I want to hear their story in a month. I want to hear their story. Another side note, how we're working. We did. My daughter looked at the studies. About every patient refers 3 to 4 people within the first year. So it's patient driven. And then we check their levels again in 4 months, 3 to 4 months, depending on the man or woman, see where they're at. And then we don't want them to go back to where they felt. We want to place them again before they have any symptoms. And we keep that system. We keep that going. We have women in their 60s who get a bone scan, and 3 years later, they have more bone. It's some objective data to show that. We have, not to be graphic, but a woman's bottom, when it gets menopausal, it gets back to the level of a 25-year-old again. The whole function of the bottom. I used to fix bottoms. That was my job as pelvic surgeon. And when you get the right hormones in there, about 80% of surgery is not needed now, because it's a hernia. That muscle's strong again. The tissue's strong again. The bladder stays up again. All that stuff gets stronger again. So again, why would you want to give less hormone because you're 60 versus 30? Why? Where's the risk factors? That's my question. They're not there.
They're not there. And when a patient, when you have a patient, they have the pellets, you tell them how to live. This is going to work. Okay. But here are the 4 steps or the 5 steps. You need 100%. We need you on this type of lifestyle eating. We need you on this type of lifestyle, getting up off the couch, not watching TV and Netflix, and moving around for 45 minutes.
Yes. No. We have a wellness program here. How to walk you out, eat it. We have a whole program. We have a whole wellness counselor here. We do all that. But it's interesting. I don't tell it that way, Jason. It's what do they want? Because I'm very specific. You could do nothing, eat all the bad food you want, never work out, and you'll feel better. And that might be enough for them. But my thing is, you're spending money on this. You're doing this. Let's take advantage of this. Right. So now, if you never lift the weights, let's go for a walk. Let's try to. So yes, I encourage all of that. And 80% do it. 80% do it. But again, it's a way of life. But when you don't have, if you're too tired to get up to walk, you won't walk. But now you have more energy in a month. You're like, wow, hey, Greg, I went for a walk. I'll give you a story. I had this beautiful couple, this beautiful older couple, probably not older, my age, in the 60s. And the wife had a great response. Husband was, I want to try. He had Parkinson's. And this does not cure Parkinson's. And I placed him. He, about a month later, he drove to the office and said, hey, Greg, I want to tell you I feel better. And I drove here. I go, great. He goes, Greg, that's the first time I drove in 5 years. First time I drove in 5 years. So symptoms are when the mitochondria, the muscles, the nerves work, everybody's story could be a little different, but it's their story. And that's why when you say, I hope I motivate them to try their best, but the best might be eating 12 hours a day, not 8 hours a day. Their best may be eating less birthday cake, but still having birthday cake. You know what I mean? But they're going to find when they start seeing results, that motivates them more. But I'm looking at three major things. I want to help their heart, their brain, and their muscle. So therefore, when we age, we can age gracefully again. That's my goal, and we see it. I play golf. Not me. I play golf in a cart. Now I'm walking. That's another great. I want to hear those stories.
Right. And mentally, any connection with this may be a difficult question, but any Alzheimer's, dementia, hormone levels. I mean, if you start doing this early, let's say people who are listening, okay, 30s and 40s, we talked about that, but let's say now they're 50s and 60s, and this is just becoming privy to them. They watch this podcast and they say, okay, well, is this going to help? My mother had dementia, or my father had Alzheimer's. Would this help them?
We get no cure. We see decrease in symptoms. I wrote a paper on PTSD. I take care of a lot of our PTSD soldiers, and it just gives the brain the neuroplasticity, the decreased carbohydrates, because it helps insulin sensitivity, helps leptin sensitivity, because Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes. It goes back to sugar again. So everything we do here is to decrease what? Vascular injury, immune response, and inflammation. And sugar is the problem. So the answer is we have a bunch of patients with those syndromes that are feeling, I'm taking less medication. I'm now doing more things. I haven't played tennis before. I'm playing tennis again. So the answer is yes, because all I want to do is strengthen the most important part within the cell is the mitochondria. So everything we're doing here is to strengthen the mitochondria, which then strengthens the cell, which then strengthens the organ. The brain is about 40% by weight mitochondria. The heart's 35% by weight mitochondria. So that's why we focus on those energy sources.
Right. So wow, that's something to be said there, just alone. My mother had hormonal issues, throughout my whole childhood and adulthood, and was never got serious, where she had to go away or anything like that, but you could tell, and as you got old, you could tell it was ups. The highs were high, the lows were low, and then when she went through, menopause, it was rough. And either way,
but Jason, the big thing about this, Greg, you're talking, you're selling a product. No, I don't need. Look at our reviews. I don't know. We have hundreds of these stories. We just did a bunch of video testimonies telling the story. That's why if all I care about is the story. Like if you're a patient, Jason, I care about the story of Jason. That's all I care about. Right. Yeah. Nothing else matters. When I started OBGYN, I had a very simple premise. I'm treating that patient as my mother or my wife. Easy.
There you go.
Would I do a hysterectomy on my wife? Then I'll do it here. Would I not? Then I won't. Now that I'm taking care of men the last 11 years, what will I do? To me, there's nothing that I'm talking about that I'm not on or I'm not doing. And
but you had the pellets.
I was the first person that got placed was me. My wife was our second.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this, Jason, is that it's your story. And I just want people to understand the freedom to be free. Liberty is a verb. And you gotta, you don't, nobody cares about your body more than you do, your health you do. So that's why you be the biggest consumer, the biggest questionnaire. If a doctor won't spend time talking, you go someplace else. There's somebody out there who will listen to your story.
Who engineers these pellets?
We use a product out of Qualgen out of Oklahoma. It's one of the, I think one of the best companies out there. Our pellets are 99.5% pure.
Did you, I'm sorry, did you, not to cut you off, but did you help in the process, or you went out and sought after the best place?
I went out and looking at that, but then the pellet I'm using for men, and when I start making for women, I've asked them to help develop. I developed the shape of it because I wanted it to be round. I saw some other pellets that were round, but they didn't fit what I thought would do. And round going through the tissue separates tissue, squared off edges tears tissue. So I think that helps our placement. I have a placement. I'm also a pelvic surgeon. There's a space I place them. I think it's been very beneficial. I've had other patients come from other doctors and they like our technique. So I'm pretty happy with that.
I cut you off. You were saying your pellets are 99.5%
pure hormone. And the other 0.5% is a fat, either cholesterol or stearic acid. I like cholesterol better. Now there is a pellet we're not FDA approved, which is sort of like interesting. But FDA approved medications is the number 3 cause of death. So that doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
But the product, the raw product going to Pfizer, GSK, or Qualgen must be approved by 2 people, the FDA and USP off the bat. So everything inside the Qualgen, the FDA comes in every 3 months to evaluate them. So the product is looked at. So that being said, there is an FDA approved pellet, which is a lower dose. This is interesting. You cannot patent an organic molecule. You can't patent it. So the one called Testapel has a thing in it called has testosterone in it, has stearic acid in it, both natural products, but they put a thing called vinyl polypropionate in it, which is not, it's an inorganic molecule, but it allows it to be patentable. But interesting, the EPA says don't put that in contact with skin, but yet it's approved for the pellet. So there's been a couple of cases of blood clots from that one. So, but there's been never a case recalled in any bioidentical compounded one in any country since 1935.
Wow, that is interesting. Wow, I could go on forever on this topic, and I know you're very good at talking about this. Not only you're educated, but it's hard that a lot of people can't come across and explain it. I don't want to say dummy it down, but you have to. I mean, you have all this knowledge, and you have to break it down to a patient like me so I understand it. You say
I'm honored with that. You don't want to. Yeah, you talk at the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level. That's how I gain information. I like that. At the same time, if you want to talk at the MD, PhD level, I should be there as well. And
exactly.
But the message is not how smart we are. It's, do you understand it, Jason? Because if you walk out of I walked out of rooms talking to attorneys or talking to other doctors, and I have no clue what they said. Not because we're dumb. I don't get it. I want to make sure that's why my consults are as long or short as you need. Is I want you to have your path, because you will know if you want to give it a whirl. Again, I'm telling you flat out, it took me 18 months to put in my own body. I'm just mad I started at 40. So that's why the back of my picture, I'm on the paddleboard, the back of my book.
My good friend says, he says, pretend I'm 3. Talk to me like I'm 3, right? Like he wants you to break something down. He goes, tell me, and he's a smart guy. He has an MBA. He's a college educated, has masters and all this stuff, but he always says to me, talk to me like I'm 3. Explain it to me like I'm 3. So, and then you have to do that, especially when,
But you allowed me to, thank you for your great interview. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Our website is optimalbio.com. Our book, the Hormone Handbook, is on Amazon. Like I said,
what is the Instagram? What's the Instagram feed? Which is your name?
Yeah. Optimal Bio.
Optimal
Bio.
Yeah. Okay, you can find them on Instagram, Facebook,
Instagram, TikTok.
Same thread. Optimal Bio.
And our website has links to all our social media pages. Yes, sir. And if you call us, no matter where you're at, and you want to get a book on Amazon, I'll send you a PDF version. I just want to educate, man. That's all I want to do.
Website one more time.
Optimal Bio.
Bio.com. Okay, great. And guys, everybody watching now, we're going to put a link when we post this. We're going to put a link at the bottom of this video, also a link to the book, and we'll get all of Dr. Brannon's information on there, so you guys and gals can reach out to him and learn more about this and get that free handbook. I mean, educate yourself. Okay. It's important. It's the only body you got, right? And start living well. You know, no waking up, not getting enough sleep, waking up with pains and being tired all day. And there's something to be said about this conversation we had today and what Dr. Brannon is teaching. Okay. There's something to be said because we all feel that way. And it doesn't have to be because, oh, we're getting old, right? That's what everybody says. Oh, I'm getting old. No, it doesn't have to be that way.
It does not.
You know,
it does not.
You can live a full life, a full, active, healthy life. If you just educate yourself and you listen to doctors like Dr. Brannon, because this is, I believe, is very important. And that's why I wanted to have you on today, because this is a very important subject for all of us.
Well,
so
Jason,
I appreciate you.
Let me end with this, Jason. I truly appreciate it. But this whole idea, I could live better, but live shorter, is a complete oxymoron. Mm-hmm. You actually live longer, longevity with quality. You don't give up longevity with quality. They go concurrently together.
I agree. I couldn't say that better myself. Thank you, Dr. Brannon, for being on. You were a wonderful guest. And guys, thanks for watching, and get in touch with Dr. Brannon. Visit his website, visit him on his Instagram and Facebook, and learn more about this subject, guys. Educate yourself. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Brannon.
Thank you.
Be well, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.